My name is Jack Mindock. I'm from Oglesby, Illinois. I volunteered and enlisted in the Navy in 1944 and served on a destroyer in the Pacific, the USS John Rogers, DD-574. Before the war started, there were 12 of his children, 8 boys and 4 girls. My mother and dad were married in 1904. They were born in 1886. My mother lived to be 97 years old. My dad was 80 years old when he passed away. My dad was head foreman at a cement mill, Lehigh Cement. My mother didn't work. She had enough to do with 12 kids.
From the NBC newsroom in New York, President Roosevelt said in a statement today that the Japanese have attacked Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, from the air.
When the war, it was on a Sunday, and we had one radio, and we listened to President Roosevelt talk about that. And at that time, however, 2 of my brothers were already in service. They were drafted and in service already. And I think one was overseas before the Pearl Harbor. He was in England before, but I'm not quite sure, but I think so. And then my other 2 brothers got drafted, so there were 4 of them, and they were overseas. And that's when I enlisted, when I graduated. My dad told me I could go in, but I had to graduate high school first. He would not sign the paper unless I graduated. And so the day after I graduated, I signed up with the Navy. I went to basic training at Great Lakes. And from Great Lakes, went to Vallejo, California, and boarded the USS John Rogers. The John Rogers was a destroyer. Basically, the destroyers, they called them tin cans. The reason they called them tin cans is because the armor around the hull was just only about 3/8 of an inch. They had 5-inch guns, 5 40-millimeter anti-aircraft guns, and about 7 20-millimeter guns, plus 12 torpedo tubes. We had depth charges on the stern, one on the port side, and on the starboard side, there was about probably 8 or 9 or 10 cans that they could release. Plus we had on the side, on the port side and the starboard side, we had depth charges that could be fired. The whole function of a destroyer was to protect the fleet. Destroyers are the first ones in battle and the last ones to leave. We would be on the outside protecting from the fleet from submarines and everything like that. Top speed, which we made a couple times, was 40 knots. And that is going fast for a destroyer. We were with Task Force 38 under Admiral Bull Halsey. And as I said, the destroyers go round and round the fleet, the rest of the fleet, protecting the carriers and the battleships and everything else from submarines. Because we were in the engine room, we were called snipes. And if you're the new one, the new snipes coming in, there were 3 of us that were down the engine room. In our spare time, we had to go down and clean out the bilges and clean all that grease and oil and everything like that. And we'd be down there for a couple hours or something like that, and you come up, you were just black, completely black. And so the only way that we could keep our we didn't keep our clothes clean, but get some of the stuff off of them, we'd tie a line around them and go and throw it overboard and let the water take most of the stuff off, and then hang them and dry them, and then put them on the next day and go down and clean the rest part, more bilges. So it was nothing but busy work. Every 4 hours, the water was turned on to take a shower. It lasted for 15 minutes. take a shower, you turn the water on, you'd get wet, you'd shut it off, you'd soap up, you'd turn it on, rinse off, and get out of there. There was no taking a 10 or 15-minute shower because guys are lined up waiting to get a shower. So it was in and out just like that. Approximately 320 men on board the destroyer. 20, 21, somewhere in that area. We were so close. You had to watch yourself or something like that because tempers were short. You bumped somebody, you had a fight. Or if you spent too much time in the shower, you had a fight. Or if you turned the shower off and the other guy, the hot water hit him, there was the fight. So there were a lot of tempers because, everybody was short-tempered because of what was going on aboard ship. We started bombing Iwo Jima. And we go around there, Iwo Jima and everything, bombarding Iwo Jima. And then we were back up towards Japan. And then we were back at Iwo Jima for the invasion. So when they invaded, we were right down there on the coast there, supporting the Marines. We had earplugs, just little rubber earplugs to put in our ears. Every time the 5-inch gun, number 3 5-inch gun would fire, it would fire over our heads. And every time it did that, used to think it was a concussion that lifted us up. But it wasn't a concussion, it was the lack of air and everything like that. It was a vacuum. And our feet would go off that high off the deck, or the gun, like that, about an inch or two off. And then sometimes as they kept firing at that, our nose would bleed, our ears would bleed, and maybe for about an hour afterwards, you take your hearing aids out and you're walking around, you still don't hear. We were lucky to be in position that when the Marines raised the flag at Iwo Jima, we were able to see it, them raising the flag with our binoculars. Our gun captain had a set of binoculars, and we all took turns looking at them, raising that flag. It was really exhilarating watching those Marines do that, and that we knew the conquest was there, and it made all of us proud of the Marines and everybody else. We pulled into Ulithi for shore leave, a barren island. We were about anchored 3 miles off, took us ashore, gave us a can of beer, nothing there, just trees. Played a little bit of football, back to the ship. So we had 3 sections, one section to go for a couple hours, then another section to go, and then the third section would go. There was always 2/3 of the people back on board ship. We had no equipment, so we had one kid, he climbed a tree, got a coconut. We played football with the coconut. So to have a little something to do. Some of the guys had baseballs and all of that, but most of us didn't have anything, just loitering around, running around, or doing something. Now, we invaded Okinawa on April the 1st, 1945, which was Easter Sunday. So we supported the landing, and then that's where all hell broke loose for the destroyers. But a group of destroyers, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10 of us, would head out. We were on picket duty. We were 45 miles from Japan, and we were patrolling out there, and our job was to pick up the kamikazes coming at the fleet and notify the fleet that the kamikazes are coming. There are over 5,000 kamikaze planes that came at the fleet in those 89 days. I was a loader on a 40 millimeter anti-aircraft gun. 50% of the Japanese kamikazes were shot down by 40 millimeters. The Rogers went through, we were credited there by the Navy for about 12 or 13 kamikazes that we shot down. But a couple of our captain and other guys said we shot down over 20-some Japanese airplanes, plus assisting. See, if more than one ship's firing at it, nobody gets credit for it. And assisting in shooting down hundreds of others. One of the closest ones we had, one of the Jap airplanes, he wasn't a kamikaze, he was, but he was strafing us. And we were loading, and he was strafing, and he made a pass and turned. Then he came back for another one, and then we shot him down about 50 feet astern of us. We got him. Two of our 40 millimeters, we were firing at him. The other 40 millimeters were firing at other kamikazes and everything coming in. So basically, that was the closest one that got to us, but the others we destroyed before they got that close. There were 144 destroyers, approximately, at Okinawa. 132 of them got hit by kamikazes. 20-some got sunk. 20 were so bad they had to be sunk. And the Navy lost approximately 6,000 men at Okinawa, plus another 6,000 wounded. And there were 389 ships total that were hit by kamikazes. That's counting the carrier, the supply ships and everything else. We were lucky, we didn't get anyone killed, and only one guy got wounded. So we were very lucky. Tsuruga is a bay south of Tokyo Bay. I guess Wan stands for bay. And so we went inside, our 5 of us destroyers, went through 2 minefields. It was black as night. I mean, black. You couldn't see anything. You couldn't even see your hand. And through the 2 minefields, our captain and then we were able to swerve and do this because they had all the mines located where they were. The submarines had done that. So they knew where every mine was. So we went through 2 minefields. As soon as we got through the minefields, the moon came out. And staring and looking straight up ahead, I could see Mount Fujiyama with the snow-capped mountain in July. Now the reason I'm talking about that, when I was in grade school, I always wanted to see Mount Fujiyama. Well, I saw Mount Fujiyama. So we went all the way up, 30 miles inland, turned around, came back down, started bombarding. We sunk one of the PT boats, and one of the other ships sunk a transport, and we bombarded the aluminum factories and everything going back down. And so it was real bright there with the sun, I mean with the moon and everything like that on the way out. So we came out and got out of the minefields and everything like that, and ran into some ships from the fleet. And they said, "Did you hear about the ships that made the raid on Tsuruga?" And our captain says, "Yes, we led them." So that sort of quieted them down. Where we went, that was going to be one of the invasion points, and so that's why they sent the destroyers there to see what was there. And that was the deepest raid by any surface vessel during the war. Oh, and I saw them, all my brothers and all of that. Naturally, they have to pick on me because I was Navy and they were Army. But it was nice. It was real nice because my sisters and all of them came in for a while from other places in the state and that, and so it was a good get-together. It was nice. Of course, then I met all my buddies that, you know, naturally we run around town doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that.